Hey everybody, Proxy here. Because many of you asked in the comment section of my last video, I figured I would try to better explain how the first-person POV mod I used actually works. Hell, even Larian's CEO mentioned he wanted to play it, which sparked roughly 30 different websites to write the exact same story covering a Twitter post about a YouTube video. Games journalism in 2024, guys. If you haven't seen the other video, I'd recommend you check that one out first. This video is just going to be a quick tutorial showing how I did it and the problems I had with it. That way you can decide for yourself if it's worth all the effort. But for me personally, it was probably the most enjoyable playthrough I've had this year. First thing to mention, this will only work on PC. So sorry all you Samsung fridge enjoyers out there, you're just gonna have to wait. I also wouldn't call this a first person mode, it's more of just a first person POV. By that I mean it's not like Skyrim where you'd see your character's hands, instead it's just adjusting the camera to be at your character's eye level to give the illusion of a true first person. Using the NativeCameraTweaks mod, I've unlocked my camera's pitch, raised the camera above my character's head, and set it to zoom all the way in. I had it set to be always zoomed in that way, but you can play with the settings yourself to allow for swapping between first or third person if you so choose. To move around, you can use the WASD character movement mod. This way moving around the world will feel identical to that of most other first person games. In order to actually move the camera around, you have to hold the middle mouse button, which I didn't mind, but I can see that being annoying for some people. A toggle would certainly be a better option, and maybe somebody can fix that who's smarter than me. The next issue you'll probably see is that my character model is still visible at the bottom of the screen when you're zoomed all the way in. To solve that, I used the choose your size mod, which lets you shrink your character's physical size, but it won't actually change any of your character's stats. What's nice about that is even if you're a short race or a tall race, you can adjust the camera to match your preference. And even better for this application is that this mod does not affect cutscenes, so your character will appear normal size in any of those. The next annoyance of this setup is that jumping or looking down is going to show your character. The way I got around that is admittedly not great. So if someone does come up with a better solution than I did, I will try to add it to the description of this video. What I did was use the basket full of equipment mod to get the invisible woman ring within it. This ring, when equipped, gives you a spell to turn your model invisible and set your height to that of a female human. This is not the invisible spell that you'd find while you're in game, instead this just makes your character model invisible, so it doesn't show up in cutscenes and you won't see it when you're jumping or fully zoomed in. And since it's not a true invisible, you're still targetable by enemies and can be spotted while sneaking. What's annoying about this ring is that it only lasts for 10 turns and it's going to take up one of your item slots. So what I'd done was bind this to my 1 key on the custom hotkey bar, and was basically spamming it for the entire playthrough. It's also currently only sized for a human female, so if you pick another race then it's going to be a little weird constantly changing your heights. The other mod that I found was nice was Better Maps All in One. What this does is allow you to hide the mini-map while you're exploring the world. Just found it was better for immersion. For combat specifically, the mod Remove Camera Move is 100% necessary. Because normally in combat when you do a ranged attack, the camera zooms all the way out to show both sides, and it's going to be constantly doing that unless you have this mod. Next, I tweaked the settings in the earlier used NativeCameraTweaks mod to work during combat as well. Also slightly annoying is that you need to hit the caps lock at the start of every combat to keep the camera locked on your view. Otherwise, you'll still be able to move it around. Again, I got used to that pretty quickly, but it's definitely not ideal. While in combat, the WASD movement is disabled, so you'll need to use the game's standard controls if you want to move around. It's probably worth time to think about if you want first-person combat at all or not, as it is an option while you're setting all this up. So if all those issues don't bother you too much, then how about we take a look at the setup instructions. Step 1. Go download and install every mod in the description of this video. Each page has their own installation instructions, and if those are too difficult for you to follow, I recommend you not to attempt any further steps. Breaking your game because of inability to read isn't worth your trouble, and I will not be providing free tech support. But if you want to donate money for tech support, you might get it. Step 2. Go to your Baldur's Gate folder, open the native mods section, and back up the BG3 camera tweaks file so that you have a copy in case anything goes wrong. Once it's backed up, open the file in the native mods folder using Notepad. You can either copy the exact settings I used, which are posted in a Google Docs link in the description below, or edit these yourself. I'll explain these sections I've edited and what exactly each setting is doing now. In that notepad, you'll find the exploration zoom section. Make sure it says true here, then change your exploration zoom minimum to be 0.01. If you want to be always locked in first person, then change your exploration zoom max to also be something like 0.1. These two settings limit your camera zoom when you're outside of combat, and by changing these numbers you can change the minimum or maximum zoom, basically letting you decide if you want to be locked in first person or still have the option to switch out. Next, under the exploration offset, again make sure that it's set to true and adjust the exploration vertical offset molt section. For myself, I used 1.7, but you can adjust this to match your preference. Just be sure that it is above 1, otherwise you will not be able to click anything on the screen very easily. I found 1.7 to be a good number for a human female character to use in conjunction with the size reduction mod I mentioned earlier. Now looking at the combat zoom settings, only change these if you want first person mode while you're in combat as well. Set combat override zoom to be true, then adjust the combat zoom min and max to be the same that you previously used on your exploration zoom settings. Here's the ones I used. Under combat offset, adjust the combat vertical offset mult to be the same that you set it for your exploration vertical offset. Again, I used 1.7 in both locations. This is what will adjust your camera height while in combat. That should be all the settings that you need to change in there for now. Just save the file, make sure your mods are active, and launch the game for step 4. Now in the game, I'll quickly create a fresh character, and I recommend you to select a race with dark vision, as it can be very hard to see sometimes without it. As soon as the game launches, assuming you use my file settings, you're going to be in first person. But as you can see, the camera feels a little bit high. To fix that, summon up your tutorial chest, grab the page of size underpants item, and equip them. Now under your passives tab, you're going to see all these new toggles. Selecting these is going to shrink your character and adjust the height of your camera. I found that minus 60% was a good height for a human female, but you can set that to your preference. If you plan to use the invisible woman ring like I did, then you'll find it in the basket of equipment mod. It's up here on the Nautiloid level, and you can find the ring in the non-visual accessory bag, Invisible Woman's Ring. I'd say it's worth having in case you find something really cool on the floor that you want to zoom into without having to see your character. Again, if someone has a better solution for that, please let me know in the comments and maybe I'll pin that. Just to show off the combat real quickly, if you have 2 or more characters when you do battle, it's going to move the camera above one of their heads. And since I didn't have a second underwear to shrink my other characters, I didn't have a great solution for multi-character runs, which is why I did mine solo. My recommendation there is just reduce the difficulty and you're still going to have a good time solo. There's nothing stopping you from using multiple characters, of course, but I just found it to be a little bit jarring with the settings I changed, since all these in-game settings are for the game overall and not per character. A reminder, at the start of combat, be sure to hit caps lock to keep the view locked and follow you during your combat. I think that about wraps up everything that I wanted to cover in this. I can try to answer some basic questions and update the video description if there's any major updates for this, but I'm not a tech support guy, and I'm going to be moving on to create new videos to avoid becoming homeless. Be sure to subscribe for those if you're interested, and hopefully people can understand that I don't hate you if I didn't reply to fix your one weird tech support issue that you're having. Thank you to all the amazing mod authors who made this possible, the viewers who enjoy my videos, and the channel members who help cover the coffee addiction which fuels my video creation process. Until next time, Proxy out.